Today we are revisiting one of my favorite topics, which is the fact that it is okay to be bad at things. It is even good to be bad at things. I've talked about this in a previous episode called In Defense of Being Bad, but I have more to say on the topic. Now, I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version of this episode because there is a core, essential message that I want to make sure everybody hears, and here it is. If you are bad at something, that means that you can tell what is making you bad, or at the very least, you are noticing the symptoms of being bad at it. You are not the insane singer that thinks they're fantastic while everybody else covers their ears because they're afraid they're going to start bleeding. You're not so incredibly unaware of how bad you are at it. That means you can get good. That means you can get better. The moment that you think you're perfect at something and have nowhere to go, you're going to stop growing. So that is the Cliff Notes version. Being bad is a symptom of progress. Noticing that you are bad is a symptom of progress. So, I have a lot more to say about this, both in game culture and in game development. So we're going to dig into that. This is Game Develop Repeat, and I'm your host, Chris. Thank you for joining. I remember when I was young playing, I think it was Warcraft 3, and having this whole conversation with some other strangers on the internet about the difference between a noob, NEWB, and a noob, NOOB. And this was around the phase where everybody just started spelling it NOOB. I think that is the way to spell it these days, but I could be wrong. Somebody was making the assertion that NEWB means something different than NOOB. He was claiming that NEWB means that they are new to the game. They are a newbie. They're new, right? And so somebody who's playing that way still gets some grace. They're still figuring it out. They still don't know what they're doing, and we should help them along. But an NOOB, a noob, in that spelling is somebody who just has no idea what they're doing and has no excuse and should be better, but is still acting like they're brand new. Now, this was a weird distinction at the time, and it is still a weird distinction to this day. I don't really buy into it, but I think it's an interesting little mindset that somebody had. Here's the point that I want to get to, though. There are people who do not get better at the thing because they don't really notice what's holding them back. They might be aware of the fact that they're bad, but only just kind of. Like, it's just like, oh, I keep losing for some reason, even though I'm playing perfectly, right? The classic League of Legends mindset of, I'm the best, everybody else is to blame, it is not my fault. That is bad. That is not a good mindset to grow from. That is maybe the worst mindset you could have as a beginner is I know everything. Welcome to being a beginner forever, and I'm not talking about in the good way. You can call yourself a lifetime beginner in that you always have something to learn, or you can be a lifetime beginner in that you will never get any better because you think that you know everything, right? That little chunk of arrogance, or you feel like you're on top of the world because you learned one thing about the game and you're like, I know everything. It can be frustrating in a team game being teamed up with either one of these people, and they kind of present the same way, right? You've got somebody who has not learned to get better and is just bad at things but doesn't really care, and somebody who is bad at it because they're brand new. But it's not I think people make the assumption that if somebody they're teamed up with is bad at the game, then that person is bad at it and does not care and deserves to be bullied and attacked. And that's stupid. That's a bad assumption. I am of two minds when I'm dealing with people who are mean to the guy who's bad at the thing, right? One mindset is the guy being mean sucks, right? The person who is being harsh is self-absorbed and has no context or no willingness to put themselves in the frame of mind of the other person and is unwilling to help out because they're too focused on their own personal goals and they're in their relaxation time. So fine, whatever, I get it. But generally my thought there is, wow, that guy sucks. Why is he being mean instead of helping? Or has poor communication skills, or doesn't actually know what the other person should be doing and just thinks he knows what the other person should be doing, and so on and so on. If you've played League of Legends, you know exactly what I'm talking about. My other thought about this is, that person's just, they're trying to play a game and they're getting frustrated, right? Like, I can go, oh, here's a bunch of fundamental character flaws that this person has for being mean to a newbie. Or I can just go, yeah, they're having a bad day, right? Fine. Probably better to give them some grace on it. But generally speaking, I would like us to be welcoming to newbies. And there have been games where I've had that experience, where people recognize how complicated the game is and they know exactly what they need to explain to somebody in order to help them out. The more difficult it is to explain the mechanics of a game, the more subtle it is, the more difficult it is to put into words what it is that actually makes somebody good or bad at the game, and the more questions there are as to what is or is not important, I think the more likely you are to have people raging at each other, to have people really mad because they can't communicate the details that are important. They have their own little opinion on it, and they can't communicate what actually matters, or they don't know what actually matters, but they think that they do, and hello, toxicity, here we go. But if it's clear what is important and the game has good documentation within the game and it's easy to communicate or point people towards resources and go here, this will teach you all about it, then suddenly we're in a good spot. Then suddenly we're able to guide people along the path and help them out and show them the way. It's almost like the more complicated the game, the nicer people are about it, but only if the complexity is obvious. Only if the complexity is right in your face. If it's like, oh yeah, we know the onboarding for this game is not that good, and we're in a low pressure situation, so let me just help you out. Let me give you a little bit of guidance. Let me say, oh hey, yeah, you actually want to do this, not that, and so on and so on and so on. I've heard, I forget what video it was. Well, let me relate two ideas about this. One, I watched a video about Magic the Gathering from Ziggy D, I believe it was. Ziggyd. He does a lot of Path of Exile content, and at one point he made a video about getting into Magic the Gathering, and he talked about how the community around Magic the Gathering is interesting in that they will tell you all of the rules. They will show you what you need to do, and they will point out the mistake that you made, and they'll be like, oh, if you do this, this is probably what's going to happen. Or, oh, you can absolutely do this, that, or the other. And they'll kind of guide you through the complicated rule set of the game. And then they will also just smash your face into the ground during a match. They'll be like, oh, yeah, so this is possible, and this is possible, and this is possible also. And then they'll have no mercy, and they'll just destroy you. Because they're teaching you the game, and then they're also showing you the consequences, right? And I heard something similar about, I think it was EVE Online. I was watching this little documentary, mini doc, about EVE Online, and trying to learn the game, some specific role in it. Unfortunately, I don't remember the exact name of this documentary, and I don't think I could come up with it even if I spent the next hour trying to figure it out. But in this, there was one section that stuck out to me where he described the way that the player base is behaving towards new players. There's a dedicated chat area that is, you're not allowed to scam people in, right? Like, the game is full of scams, full of cons, full of ploys, and that's part of the gameplay, is to mess with other people and to get things from them. And there's a dedicated chat area in the game that is, you're not allowed to do that. And the moment that it leaves that chat room, you're in game now and people can start scamming you. But as long as you're in that chat room, you get good help, you get good advice, you get guidance. And it's kind of that same energy. The game is extremely complicated, and noobs are victims to be crushed if they're outside of that protected environment. In Magic the Gathering, if you are outside of the protected environment of somebody explaining the rules to you and giving you some guidance, if you're playing the match, they'll go, okay, it's time to smash you, right? It depends, it depends on who you're with and whatever, but it's nice to have this protected environment where it's, okay, we are learning the game. This is where we are learning. This is what we're all here for, and we're not going to do anything nuts because this is the place to learn. And that's what you do for fundamentals. You can't have that across the whole span of the game. Well, maybe you can, I don't know. But I like having that environment. I think that's a wonderful thing. And I think it leans people towards getting a little less frustrated when they have a space to actually learn. When the game is not always in competition mode, when the game is not always in full immersion mode, when there are places where you can go, oh, okay, you have questions? Here are some answers. A really nice wiki can do this, although a really nice wiki is not for everybody. A really nice wiki can be full of spoilers and get a little bit frustrating. But there's something about this new player experience in complicated games that fascinates me because as a teacher, I always look at somebody who doesn't know stuff and go, how can I get them to where they know stuff? Right? How can I help them figure this out so that they can have a good time, a good experience learning it, and develop a passion for the thing? And I feel like a lot of gaming culture has people who, look, I'm not trying to, I like gaming, but there are a lot of gamers who are like, you suck, screw you. Why do you suck? I'm going to dunk on you, right? And sometimes I think it's just somebody who doesn't have anything else going on in their life and they just want to beat somebody down in a video game. Okay, fine, fair enough. We've been there, I guess. All right. But like, man, when you teach somebody else, you deepen your own understanding of the thing. If you have the self-awareness, this is really, really key. If you have the self-awareness to recognize what you do and do not know while you are teaching somebody, rather than just pretending that you know something as you're transmitting information to them, if you can actually notice, oh, wait, actually, I'm not 100% sure about this one detail, so let me check into that and let me get back to you. Then you are going to learn more from teaching, right? You're going to learn a ton. There are absolutely people out there who will just go, yeah, no, it's just this. And they'll just like make an assumption and throw it at you and teach it as though it is correct. They'll just throw whatever random crap they want into the conversation because they'll go, that kind of makes sense. And by the way, and I'm not going to go on this full tangent, that's my issue with AI. AI is like the guy who goes, oh, this kind of makes sense. So, yeah, we'll just say that that's true, which is one of the worst teachers. You don't want that. So learning from AI, oof. Oh boy, I'm not gonna dig down this rabbit hole too much, but that freaks me out. I think that is a recipe for disaster at the moment. Now, we've started talking about tech. Let's start talking about game development specifically. Here's the problem with being bad at game development. You look around and you go, what am I bad at? I'm just bad at everything. There's art, there's concepts, there's game design, there's freaking battle systems. There's what am I don't even know what fits into what category. There's just so many things that I'm not good at. How am I ever going to good at it? Oh my god, never mind. I'm out of here, right? There's this feeling of playing Dwarf Fortress. There's this feeling of, oh my god, why am I getting in on this? This is insane. But if you can break it down and you can focus in on one thing that you're new at rather than a dozen things that you're new at, then it becomes manageable. And this is the thing about being bad at game dev. You look at it and you go, holy moly, I don't even know where to start. Well, break it down, figure out what questions you have, and then start there. I did something the other day that helped me enormously. I was working on my current prototype thing, right? I'm working on a combat prototype that's heavily inspired by Legend of Dragoon. And how do I put this? I really did not know what I wanted it to be. I was like, I was working on this whole thing that was starting to turn into Parappa the Rapper, and it was it was just a mess. It was turning into almost like a rhythm game thing because of an underlying concept that I want to tie into the whole thing. And there's like a lore, like not a lore, a vibe that I want for the game, an aesthetic that I'm going for, a implication of a real world activity, right? And in trying to sort of simulate reality too hard, I started making something that wasn't the type of gameplay that I wanted. So I had to sit down and go, what in the world do I actually want? What am I trying to make? And I was like, maybe I need a system for figuring out what the heck I'm trying to do, because I have too many thoughts swirling in my head. I have this kind of vague, amorphous blob, and I was like, oh, I got to ask myself questions. And there's two categories of questions that are getting in my way. One category is, what do I want? What do I actually want this game to be? What am I moving towards? What is this going to become? The other category of question is, how do I do that? So I made this questions for me and questions for other people. Questions for thee. I don't know. Questions for me, questions for practical questions, skills, technical stuff. Fine. And I just went through questions for me. I just started going, what about this? What about this? What about this? Well, do I want this? Do I want that? Do I want this little detail? So it was like, do I want multiple party members in this combat? Do I want to have health? Do I want to echo the enemy's behavior? Do I want to... That probably, without context, that's probably confusing. But there's a bunch of little mechanics that I was looking at going, do I want this, that, the other? And then as I sorted through it, I basically ended up on something that is like, oh, okay, this is extremely similar to the combat from Legend of Dragoon, right? I was like, that's what I want. I want something that has a extremely heavy influence from Legend of Dragoon, because I like that combat so much, and it hasn't been done in that way in a long time. Even Expedition 33, which I love, does something a little different with their combat. It's heavily inspired by action-based, turn-based combat. Like I'm curious if they must have played something like Legend of Dragoon at some point, right? They must have. There's so many good design elements from so many different JRPGs all put together in one game. They must have had a breadth of experience. They must have played so many different games across all their team and all their experiences. Oh my god. But especially like Persona games, I think that's a big influence there too. But I'm getting sidetracked here. I ended up going, oh, this is the kind of execution that I want. I want this sort of combat with this sort of timing and this sort of leveling system very loosely. I focused in on combat, figured it out. That, I think, is part of how I get out of being bad at game design, is sitting down and going, what do I want, what do I want, what do I want, what do I want, and then going, what do I need to know, 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 asking myself questions. One thing I like to do is look at the way that I've played games that I'm bad at and never got good at. I used to play League of Legends. I never got good at it. And I'm like, why did I never get good at it even though I played a bunch? Well, because I didn't interrogate myself about it. I didn't look at replays. I didn't go, what am I doing wrong? I just played it in the moment and never made any progress. I think in game design, I've kind of been playing in the moment. You know, like when I made Soot, when I made my first game, I kind of just iterated on a concept for a while until I got to a point where I went, oh, that's what I want it to be. And then I changed it some more as I was going, but I didn't have a clear concept. I had a vague concept, but I didn't know the little details that are kind of important for a platformer. Like I knew I was going to stick to walls, but then I didn't really know if I was sticking to ceilings. And then I had a double jump thing, and then I was like, maybe I don't want this kind of jumping. Maybe I do. It got weird. I didn't know when I started making levels whether or not I didn't know how the movement was going to work, really, when I started making levels. I was like, can I launch off of walls? Can I jump way higher off of a wall or not? Can I stick to a ceiling or not? Can I only stick to specific tiles or can I stick to everything? These are things that I figured out as I was making the game. And that's okay, but I think in order to make myself a little bit better at design, if I have a little bit more thought out before I start doing it, then I'm going to be able to iterate more effectively. I can get rid of a lot of those early iterations on paper. And then I can have those ideas in the back of my head. And as I start iterating, if I go, this doesn't work well, I have a pool of ideas in the back of my head. And I can go, oh, wait, what if I do try that thing that I had thought about before that I had discarded? Maybe that is the way to go. And I guess I've gotten a little off track, but that's my pitch for getting better at the design side of things. And then programming. Programming is so overwhelming. we can look at programming and go, oh my God, what the heck? And this is one where I feel like you have to dive in and experiment and run into giant walls and go, okay, well, now I know what to do. This is the beautiful thing about programming, and this is going to sound a little bit dumb, and there's probably some programmers that are going to disagree with me, but programming teaches you to program more aggressively than a lot of things do. It's a high feedback environment, which is great. If you program something and you do it wrong, you find out pretty quickly in most cases. Now, the most frustrating things in programming are when you don't find out quickly, but as far as learning syntax, it's very high feedback. You screw something up, you find out very quickly, and that is essential for learning. You can't stay bad at syntax and not find out that you're bad at syntax. You know what I mean? Like if you're screwing up all your syntax, you find out immediately because it just doesn't run correctly. Right? You're like, there's a red line here. This whole line is broken and it's giving me a bunch of error messages. I guess I did something wrong. You can't lie to yourself about it. You can lie to yourself about logical errors, for sure, and that's why they're so difficult to friggin' figure out when you make one. Not that I make those all the time, but I do. There's these subcategories, right? The art, the sound. Oh my God. I'm going on a tangent. Bad sound design and bad music in games can do so much damage, and people are so unaware of it sometimes, and it hurts me. I don't oh man. Because I can tell, like, sometimes I listen to the music in a game and I go, do they not realize that I have to listen to this for hours? Like, are they aware that I'm going to hear this battle song every single time I enter combat for hours? Are they not aware that I'm going to be in this zone exploring for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and they have a 45-second loop on the music? I'm going to lose my mind. That is rough. And that is where I go, I don't think they realize that they've made a bad choice here. I don't think they realize that this is bad. I think they haven't noticed it, and that's why it got shipped. Or they went, who cares? And that's why it got shipped. And that is the beauty of knowing that you're bad at something. If somebody on that team goes, oh, this is bad, then now there's an opportunity to fix it. If you in your programming go, something about this isn't quite right, now you have the chance to fix it. You look at your pixel art and you go, what? Huh? Something looks off. Now you can fix it. If you look at it and you just go, this is amazing, then you're in trouble. Now, here's a trick to not believe that you're good when you're not good. That was very poorly phrased. Let me try that one more time. Here's a trick to notice when you're fooling yourself. Step away from it. Do not look at it for like a week and then look at it again. Boom. This is great with writing. When I tried to write a novel, I took a week away from it, and then I went back and I read what I wrote, and I swear to God, when I walked away from that stuff the first time, I went, oh my God, I'm the greatest writer that has ever been. I have written a masterpiece. I'm a genius. And then I came back and I read it, and I went, ooh, that's bad. Oh my God, who wrote this? That is rough. That is too on the nose. That is terrible. Time to rewrite it. And then I did, and it got better. Now, there are times when you just have to let it ride, but boy, it is valuable to just step away so that you can let yourself digest everything you've done and come back to it with fresh eyes, because you're better now. You wrote it, now you come back, you're better. You've developed skills in the process of writing it. But the most important skill, this is the last thing I have to say on the development side of this, and then we're moving on, we're finishing this thing up. The single most important skill for creating things is noticing whether or not you're making the thing you want to make. Noticing whether or not it is good. Having good taste. And I'm not talking about objectively good taste by everybody else's standards. I'm talking about knowing what you want to make and noticing whether or not you are making the thing that you intend to make. That is a hard skill, But if you can develop that, if you can notice that, if you can figure out ways to do that, then you're going to get good because you're going to notice how bad you really are. One final thought, which is just that sometimes people are mean to people who are bad at things. And it's just not to be like cheesy on this, but that's about them. You know, when somebody's being a jerk to you because you're bad at something, it's because they're trying to rise themselves up and beat other people down. Like just a minute ago when I was going, oh my God, it sucks when people are really bad at music and it drives me crazy. And I went on a whole thing about bad music. That's because I'm going, well, look at me. I know stuff about music. Oh, good for me, right? Like there's some little part of me, some little egotistical part of me that's going, well, I know better than them, which is why I am so good with this thing, and I don't even have to worry about it, which is a bad mindset, because if I stop worrying about it, I stop noticing when I screw something up, right? So if somebody's being an I don't curse on this podcast, do I? If somebody's being mean, if somebody's being awful to you about whatever the heck it is, because you're bad, they're probably just got some kind of issue going on. You know, it has nothing to do with you being bad. Now, let's end this with a question. What is my question for today? What do you feel bad about being bad at? Isn't that a weird one? I think that's an interesting question. Because it shows that you care about that thing. Or maybe somebody just shamed you about it, and like that's a different thing. But if you really feel bad about being bad at something, doesn't that imply that you want to get good at it? Or at least that there's something going on there that's worth just taking a peek at and being like, oh, is this just because of somebody else's expectations? Is this because I really care about this? What's going on here? Let's take a peek. For me, now I have a story. I got so into, I'm sorry that this is going to go long. I got so into music because I felt terrible about being bad at music. Kind of because I love music, but also kind of because I was just used to being good at things in school, and I was really bad at music. So then I was like, I have to be good at music, which is not really a good reason to get into music, but it's what I ended up doing. So like my thing that I felt bad for being bad at was music, and I ended up chasing it so aggressively, getting a degree in it and doing all this stuff. Now, granted, there's some general weirdness in there about how much of that was driven by how much I care about music versus just feeling bad about being bad at a thing in school, but I did like music a lot, and I do really enjoy making music. So I'm glad, for the most part, that I went, oh, I'm really bad at this, and I want to get good. I want to confront that and move forward and become at least decent at this thing. Now, what is it for you? And what is my new one? What do I feel bad about being bad at now? I don't know. That's interesting. Sometimes I feel bad about, being bad at, like, I was going to say like miscellaneous development skills, like art or programming or code or whatever, but not really. Oh, today I felt bad about not being good at Linux. I was like trying to figure out Linux, and I just got down on myself about it. I was like, man, I want to figure out this Linux thing, but I don't really want to put the time and effort into it. And I felt bad about not wanting to put the time and effort into it, which kind of means that it's important to me and that I want to learn about it. But at the same time, I'm going, I kind of got other priorities. But maybe I dig deeper into it. I don't know. It's an interesting question to ask because it makes you think about what is and isn't important to you. So there it is. What do you feel bad about being bad at? The end. That's it. I'm ending this episode. Thank you all for coming by. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this one. I'll be back next week. Until then, get out there, make some stuff, and have fun with it. Bye-bye.